Hey guys, this is Robert Dailey and welcome to Dailey Woodworks and the Recreational Woodworker. It's time for a new workbench. This has been my perfectly boring workbench and I have used it for well over a year. The reason I called it the perfectly boring workbench is because there's nothing fancy about it. You can build it with a circular saw and a drill and just screw it together. There's no glue required. It's simple. Anybody can make this for about $100 in materials. And you have a great workbench that you can do all kinds of stuff on. It's a great first workbench. And we've used them in our shop. I have one here and my camera is actually sitting on the tripod, which is sitting on my other one right now. I've modified it, added drawer banks, plugs, things like that to it. I drilled dog holes. You can see this one has been stained, painted. I've cut into it with the track saw. I've torn it up right here. I've drilled holes in it. And I thought about just replacing the top. One of the problem I had is with the learning experience of this is actually sagged, and so I need to go back and update the plans and reinforce that top a little bit so it doesn't sag. But that's not what I'm building today. What I'm building today is a Paulk Smart Workbench. Ron Paulk has revolutionized carpentry workflow solutions. I discovered him back in 2012 when I first really got into woodworking and saw like his first version of his workbench, his old box truck, and then his awesome rolling toolbox. I watched him build smart, and I've incorporated tons of his ideas into my workflow, my storage solutions. My modular drawers come directly from him. My trailer used to be built out very similar to his, but then customized to my own workflow. And even the size of the perfectly boring workbench, a 3x6 rectangle, is based on the Paulk Total Station size because I have one of those that I use for my portable job site workbench. So today I'm going to build the Paulk Smart Workbench. I bought Ron's plans from his website, thesmartwoodshop.com. Ron doesn't even know who I am, so this isn't sponsored or I'm not affiliated with him in any way, but he has great solutions to maybe take you that next step. Maybe you built a perfectly boring workbench when you first started woodworking, but now you have more tools, more skills, and you're ready to step up to that next level. The Paulk Smart Workbench is going to be that solution because not only is it a great size and work table, but it's also portable in that if you have to share a workspace, you can easily pick it up, move it to this corner of your garage, it's out of the way. Or even if you live in an apartment, you can take it out of your storage closet or store it behind the couch, take it out, set it up, and then you have a full power, high quality workbench to do all kinds of stuff with. So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna start working through his plans. I'm gonna be careful not to give away any of his intellectual property because I wanna honor him and what he's done. I just wanna show somebody else making it. So definitely go buy his plans, support what he does. Buying plans from other creators on YouTube is the best way to show your support because it takes a lot of work to produce videos, content, especially if it starts taking over your job. This actually becomes your job, and that's basically become his job, and I'm hoping one day it'll fully become my job as well. But go buy his plans, support what he does. He's put a lot of work and effort into it, and let's get started. Hey guys, before we get started today, I would like to invite you to go to the recreationalwoodworker.com. This is my website and blog that has all of my woodworking plans, how-to tutorials, jigs, furniture, shop projects, tool reviews, everything that you need to know about being a woodworker. We have an extensive blog where it's easy to find the essential clamps you need, how to build awesome tabletops, and upcycling furniture projects. All those different things that you might want to do to be a woodworker. So go check out the recreationalwoodworker.com and let's get back to our video. Okay, so the first part of this is to make our pattern. So all of Paulk's plans are laid out for patterns and router bushings. What that is this. Just so you know, the battery is out of this, so it's not plugged in, but it's a bushing guide that goes on your router right here. You have a bit inside of it, whoops, that bit comes through, cuts your pattern, and so you have a slight offset. In this case, it's a little bit bigger than 1/8 of an inch, but I'm gonna use a 1/2 inch pattern bit. Got another template guide coming, but this is the only one I have that will fit my Makita router at this moment. And by making the pattern that offset of 1/8 of an inch, you can then save it and then make all your other pieces super quick with a router. So since you're using that, he even went so far as to make a pattern. So I'm going to make the pattern first, make all of my templates, and the cool thing about the Paulk system is, or the Paulk Smart system, is once I make those templates, I can make all of his workbenches, the miter saw, the things like that. I can make as many as I need as quickly as possible because I've already made up these patterns and templates, so it gives me that repeatability. So the first thing I'm going to do is start laying out my measurements. Okay, so here's the coolest thing about making a pattern is now I have this made. Ron even laid out where the screw holes go, so I went ahead and drilled the screw pilot holes and countersunk them. That's cut to width. Now I'm just going to clamp this in place. I'm just going to make sure I get this corner perfectly lined up with the piece. And this is actually, I'm making another pattern right now, but it's going to make the entire thing super simple. Got that done. Gonna line it up right there and go ahead and put a clamp on. And you're about to see the brilliance of these screw holes being here. So I've just got some 1 3/4 wood screws. It's longer than needed. 1 1/2 inches, 1 1/4 would be fine for building this thing. But now, and I'm just going to do this so it actually gives me something to clamp into as well. When I run my screw through this, it'll automatically pre-drill my pilot hole for the next screw hole. So whenever I attach it down, all my screw holes will be pre-drilled. Isn't that cool? So, oops, I messed up. I'm going to start right here in this corner. There we go. So I've got that in place right there. Now I'm going to come over here. I'm not going to do this edge because where I put the screw isn't, this is actually the center of the pattern because I'm making another pattern. And I'm just going to run a screw in right here, and then I'm just, oh good, it anchored. It actually anchored to my workbench. So now when I do this, so I'm just going to run that home. A little bit more torque. And I did those countersinks so everything's perfectly smooth. So now I'm going to go ahead and do this top one right here. Make sure everything's lined up right. That's annoying. Run that in. There we go. So now this is locked down, it's secure, and now I'm ready to actually use my pattern bit and cut this out, and I'm going to make sure I use some dust collection on this as well. Isn't that so cool? And then whenever this is done, it'll be my almost final pattern, so I could do it. And I could just skip ahead and make this the finished piece right here, but I like the idea of having all these patterns, and I'm just going to follow his plans and go with that. So really cool design. Again, smartwoodshop.com. You can go there and buy these plans. So how cool is that? Just like that, I have a perfect template to make all of my sides with real quick and easy. I've got the pattern that I can save. I'm gonna save all of these so I can remake things in the future. And boom, this could be a finished piece if I wanted it to be, but I don't. This is gonna be the template, and now I have to make one more template, well, two more templates, and then I'm pretty much ready to start building my guy. So my battery's almost dead, so I need to charge stuff up, so I'm not gonna show making the rest of these patterns. Ron's already got a video over that, and again, check out his plans. Hey guys, so I am now ready to assemble my Paulk Total Station. So what I have is, I've got all my parts made. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 pieces to the actual workbench. It's really simple to make. I used a router and a pattern bit to do this just because I'm going to be making multiples of these, so taking the time to make the templates so that I can batch the other 2 out that I'm going to make just made sense to me. But if all you're ever going to make is one, all you need to do this is a circular saw, a jigsaw, and a drill and driver. Like, that is it. You can make this entire thing with that. I didn't show in detail making all the patterns. I kind of did just a couple time lapses here and there because I do want to respect the work that Ron has put into this and not give away his plans. I don't want to give away his design. I want to point you to thesmartwoodshop.com where you buy the plans from him, because frankly he did a really great job on them, and this is his design and he deserves to be rewarded and justly compensated for that. Capitalism rant over. But I'm ready to assemble this, and the coolest thing about this these plans is there's not a top or bottom. There's not even an inside or outside, so I can just start stacking this up right here like that. And I do feel my router jig got off a little bit right here. That's just some issues I have with my router and a bit slipping. So make sure your router bits are tight. But to assemble this, the coolest thing about it is, because of the way you make the templates or the patterns, all of my holes are pre-drilled and evenly spaced across this entire thing. So that means I don't have to guess where my holes are going to be. They're all going to line up. And this workbench is 36 inches wide, so we're just barely going to have room to assemble this. I think this is all done in metric, and I think the final width is like 34 American. So anyway, so I'm ready to start assembling this. I'm going to glue and screw it, and whenever you're doing boxes like this, yeah, it's super helpful to have some type of square hold it in place. But if you make clean cuts right here, if you make clean cuts here and here, it's essentially going to be really close to 90 degrees. And if you cut your top and bottom perfectly, that's going to square it up. And the same thing with building cabinets is your back panel is going to square up the entire thing. So you got to make sure that's perfect. And that way, when I'm assembling this, I don't have to worry about keeping it perfectly square. I can just assemble it, move it around. It's going to rack a little bit. That's fine. It's the entire assembly together that holds it together. And I see a lot of guys trying to hold like this joint perfectly square when you're screwing it together, and you just don't have to. Like, if it's off a little bit, you want to make sure the joint is flush and tight and glued, absolutely. But if this joint isn't perfectly square when you glue it up, whenever you do the final screw up of the top and bottom, that's going to pull everything into square if that is perfect. So I'm going to put it in time lapse and just get this thing done. Enjoy. I am done assembling the body of this thing, and you know, had to get set up and things like that and get a few clamps. This guy made it super easy. Again, all my holes were pre-drilled thanks to the templates. They weren't drilled into the side of the plywood. I probably should have drilled them out, but I didn't. I just ran some self-tapping, good high quality deck screws actually, that are Starhead 1 3/4. I could have gone away with 1.5 inches or even 1 1/4 inches. Literally, that's what I had, and I decided good enough. I didn't even look at what the plans actually called for, but 1 3/4 inches working fine for me. Is what it is, right? And that way I get 1 inch of bite into my other material. So this is assembled now. Now the next step I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and clean up all my glue squeeze out and give this guy a good sanding inside and out, because even though I routed all the edges and it's pretty smooth, I want it to be nice. And I'm actually gonna paint the skeleton of this thing. And then my top is already clear coated. I did 3 coats of a catalyzed lacquer on it that's extremely durable. And you know, it's nice to have things that look nice. You can tell my old workbenches don't look nice. They're used and abused. And you know, there comes a time in everybody's woodworking journey that it's just, you know what, I gotta get stuff done. I'm gonna throw together a workbench. I don't care what happens to it. We're in a hurry, just cut through the top. But I'm shifting. I've gotten my business to a point to where, 1, I can make a lot more video content, and that helps. But 2, I can really take my time, slow down on projects, and still produce really high quality work, but my shop also look nicer, because this is where I spend about 8 to 10 hours a day. And it's not the prettiest place to be, and I want it to be a really enjoyable space to be in. Speaking of which, I do have a really nice AC unit, but man, it is humid as heck in Texas right now. It's like 100 degrees with like 100% humidity, and it is miserable in here. I've got my AC going full blast, I've got 2 fans blowing, and I'm still sweating in here. So today I want to talk to you about the missing pattern for the Paulk Smart Bench. There's one missing that I'm gonna make right now that's gonna make this easier. And maybe it's there and I missed it, but it is the layout holes for the top and bottom. And I want them to be precise, and I want to be able to just lay this out. So I'm going to use the sawhorse tab pattern. You can see I already routed it, and I went ahead and added the extra handle in 3 places, just that way if I have help, we each have a handle to grab. But I'm going to use this template, and I am going to mark over 3/4 of an inch or 18 millimeters, center my drill hole, and then evenly space my screw holes for all of this. And I'll just move this jig down. I have to do a little bit of alignment, but it won't be too bad. So I'm going to do that right now, and then I'll come back and show you what I did. But I think it's going to be just that final little thing to make sure this thing's absolutely perfect. Well, I've done my jig, and just through the magic of the 32 millimeter system. See, I've come in 64 inches. I forget, but it's a multiple of 32, 32, multiple of 32. This one is slightly further apart, but it's basically just an extra 32 millimeters based on these. And it's still a nice close spacing. And so I can just basically align it with the corner. I aligned it with the corner. You see my screw holes all nice and done. I've got a nice 45 on this. And then all my screw holes are done. The only thing I still need to do is figure out where exactly my line is gonna go on the middle to align this guy, but I have this guy right here holding those spreaders in the right spot. So I need to figure that part out, and then I am ready to jig, to just screw this in, glue and screw it. But seriously, jigs are amazing. There's a jig for everything in life. All tools we own are just fancy jigs that have been improved upon systematically. So all those holes are pre-drilled. My layout of screws is going to be perfect and symmetrical. It's going to look great. And now that this jig is done, it's done forever for any Paulk Smart Bench I want to build. And even my perfectly boring workbench, I'm going to do a version 2 of that that's going to be better. So I'm going to have a Paulk and a boring workbench right there. I'm going to convert it to metric and lay it out on the metric system, because it's just going to be that much better. All right, guys, I'm not going to go through all that detail because I want this to be a short video that you can watch, but it's the missing jig from the Paulk Smart Bench system. that's going to make aligning your holes that much quicker. And if you're like me, who's moving, you know, this is going to be my track saw table. I'm going to make another one for my table saw outfeed and routers, and then I'm going to make another for my miter saw. And I'm basically converting my shop over. Even though I would work in a permanent shop, I'm going to make it smart. So thank you for watching this video. I invite you to go to the recreationalwoodworker.com. We have blogs, resources. I'll have a blog post about my building of the Paulk Smart Bench. And as well as we also have a Facebook group called the Recreational Woodworker. That's exactly that. It's helping people build great furniture for fun and enjoying the art of woodworking. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.